Recently, communities across Southeast Michigan recognized Waste and Recycling Workers Week here and all across the country, celebrating the people who aren't afraid to get their hands dirty and lend a helping hand in one of the core services of communities such as ours here in Greater West Bloomfield. Many of them, including trash and recycling haulers in our local area, are with Priority Waste, of course. And here to discuss this celebration with updates from your local trash and recycling provider is Matt Allen, Director of Public Relations and Government Affairs with Priority Waste, joining us on the Splash Live. Matt, thank you so much for your time today.
Tyler, thanks for giving me the opportunity to address the wonderful residents of West Bloomfield. Thank you so much.
Yeah, glad to have you on to talk about this. And as we recently did celebrate National Waste and Recycling Workers Week in the mid to late portion of the month of June, I want to talk first about those that are out on the front lines throughout the week, picking up our trash and our recycling in communities like West Bloomfield and the Greater West Bloomfield area. Just how tough is that job that people maybe don't understand when they put their trash out on the side of the road at the beginning of the week and they come home later on in the day and it's gone and they just rinse and repeat every week?
You know, what's funny, Tyler, I thank you for the setup, actually. For less than the price of a latte, we haul your waste away, your recycling, and your compostables every week. And so in the grand scheme of things, it's a pretty simple task, but there's a lot of complicated parts to it. So we appreciate people's patience when weather delays or mechanical issues have presented delays in service over the last year or so. We've improved greatly during that 90-day period of transition we talked about last summer into the fall. And I've got some really good news to share for you and the viewers today about some of the promises that we made last year about new trucks replacing the worn out fleet that we bought. We certainly took the time to spend $20 million of investment to stabilize the fleet that we purchased from the previous provider. And it was beyond baling wire and bubble gum, I can assure you. There was a lot of money that was invested just to get us through the hump, which was to the new trucks that were coming, which we knew would take 14 to 18 months to have them manufactured and delivered. So we appreciate our workers working 8, 10, and 12-hour days through the month of May, which is the heaviest month of composting and organics that go out, believe it or not. The 35 days that start somewhere in the first week to the second week of May and runs into June. 40% of all the compost or organic matter that's disposed of throughout the entire year happens during that 35 to 40-day period. So it presents quite a challenge for not just Priority Waste, but for any waste hauler here in Michigan and elsewhere in the Midwest. The spring growth, the big heavy growth, it's wet growth. It's also when everything's going to try to go to seed. It's the heaviest period. Everyone's cleaning out their garages. They're cleaning out their flower beds and their yards and pruning and so on. There's a lot there. So it is a heavy task and it happens every year. So we didn't shy away from the reality of it this year, and we were behind a few days, but we kept on it day after day after day with Saturday recoveries. And we're kind of coming out of that period right now, which is fantastic. It normally happens about a week before the 4th of July, traditionally. But the good news I want to share with folks is our workers are out there, and we appreciate the people that offered water and, in some cases, other things besides water to our workers during National Garbage Man Appreciation Week. And the actual day was last Tuesday. And we did some things, shared some appreciation letters and voicemails and texts and so on that people had given from West Bloomfield and surrounding communities for our workers. We do appreciate them. They do the unrecognized task every day, just like the post office. Rain or snow, sleet, dark of night, we're still out there doing our task, which is to pick up your organics, your recycling, and clearly your garbage. So we appreciate all of that. We love being part of the community in that regard. Our dialogue with the township has been fantastic, Tyler. The leadership there with Jonathan Warshay, the supervisor, and so on has been excellent. Although we didn't shy away from the reality of things, we were certainly willing to communicate and so on. But I will tell, here's the great news. What we thought we wouldn't get until Christmas time, November, December, which was new trucks. We had ordered dozens and dozens of them when we did the transition, and we just had to be patient while they were being manufactured. Our CEO didn't have a magic wand, but he was able to stay on top of it month after month diligently, trying to figure out a way to get these trucks delivered earlier, even if it was just 90 days. The good thing is last week we took 7 brand new trucks. Today we're taking delivery of 7 more. We're sending drivers down to Ohio, where the manufacturer is, to bring on 7 more. And then by the end of this week, we'll have 21 plus the 7 from last week, or about 28 trucks. And by the 4th of July, the week after the 4th of July, we should have 50 brand new trucks up here to get rid of 50 tired and worn out vehicles that we bought during the purchase from the previous provider. So the relief is coming Christmas in July. It's coming in July. So we'll be able to put them into the fleet and into service. So communities like West Bloomfield that have still some of the old lime green trucks out there with our stickers on them, those are going to go away. You're going to start to see brand new Corrados and rear packers in our communities like West Bloomfield, Bloomfield Township, Waterford, White Lake, Shelby Township, Rochester. All the communities along the M59 corridor are going to start seeing new trucks inserted into the fleet, and the old ones are going away, which is going to be tremendous to helping keep us on time, limit the number of hydraulic blowouts that have been happening, which we regret, but we deal with them as they happen. So the good news is the cavalry figured out a way to get here early. So we're very happy to announce that to all of our communities.
Yeah, it's really good news, and certainly will help to alleviate some of the delays that have been seen in the past year or so since this relationship began, with Priority Waste taking over for Green for Life, or GFL, in many of our local communities, including here in West Bloomfield. Matt Allen is with us from Priority Waste. Matt, it's no secret that among the frustrations, not only those breakdowns that cause those delays, communication also something that many residents and even members of the township board in West Bloomfield had some gripes about over the last 12 months or so. What improvements have been made to communication systems and that dialogue that often happens between trash and recycling providers and individual residents as well?
So West Bloomfield is a quarterly billing community, right? So not unlike many of the townships that stretch along the M59, Highland Road, Hall Road corridor. There's a lot of quarterly billing townships. In other words, townships that have, unlike a city that does single payer, in other words, it goes on the tax bill and it gets just paid in 12 monthly increments to the provider, meaning Priority Waste per the contract. In townships, a lot of them are still doing quarterly billing where we have to send out a paper bill, or by preference, an electronic bill to a resident. And now in West Bloomfield, you've got about 22,200 plus households which receive a quarterly bill. And with that, every time the quarterly billings go out, and all townships are on the same cycle, we have a huge spike in call volume for people that are confused, or they may have moved, or they missed a back payment, or a credit wasn't there, and it creates call volume. And most of the call volume comes between 8 a.m. and 10:30 in the morning. And currently we have, as I checked before our interview today, we have about 1,780 calls in the queue. Now, we don't have 1,780 people to answer the phone, as you might imagine, but we do. We're working Saturdays, and we're working 4 hours of overtime each day through these quarterly billing periods to try and get return calls back to customers. Now, there's 2 things that are really helpful. Don't hang up without leaving your information, because there's no way for us to get back with you. And we get these, one of the refrains that we hear is that, oh, nobody answers the phone and nobody calls me back. Well, if you don't leave information for us to either email you or call you back, we can't. And then the other thing is, a lot of people, and we're all guilty of it, they'll see a number that they're not familiar with, and they won't pick up when we call them back. And that creates frustration as well. So we're able to solve most billing issues, either set you up with a portal so that you can do auto pay through your internet portal, or pay your bill, or correct a payment bill, okay, with whatever payment you prefer. We normally are able to do that within 2 minutes. What people get frustrated is that they're all calling at the same time, like, I want to get this done first thing in the morning so I can go on with my day. And they're like, nobody called me back today. Well, we're at 1,700 calls an hour. We're not going to be able to get back to people until the next day. So we're trying to get everyone done in real time based on the number of people that we have, which are many, and then try to get everybody called back within 24 to 48 hours to get them done during peak. Once peak is over with in all the townships, it's not so bad, quite frankly, to get through. I will say that last week, and you're not the only community that had this, because of the severe weather incidents that we had, so many in succession, our phone system and power went out, not unlike many areas. Yeah. We're not immune from that either. And that caused the queue to re-queue everyone. So when everything came back to service, 14, 16 hours later, I think it was, when everything came back online, because they worked through the night to get that corrected, instead of having 1,700 calls, there was like 12,000 or something like that, which of course, many of the redundant ones, they get filtered out. It does correct itself. However, that did take a process of that day, and then we had to get back to calling everybody back. So that has been pretty much whittled down. But we probably have another day of those backlog calls. So we'll be back to normal operations probably by midweek, probably by Wednesday morning of this week. We should be back to totally normal on the call volume. So we appreciate people's patience and understanding, but we're not immune from acts of God or weather incidents either.
Of course. And outside of course, these moments like when we have severe weather and that causes some backlog to happen, when there are just average run-of-the-mill delays or even something like Mother Nature getting in the way and that causes a delay where people may not have their trash picked up on a regular date, how is that communicated to communities and how maybe has that changed with all this new technology being employed by your company to make that communication smoother, more efficient, and make sure that residents know, hey, if my garbage day is Tuesday and there's going to be a delay, that I know when I should be putting my trash out?
So we put messages out on social media, although it's a horrible way to communicate professionally. So we don't do that as our main communication. We leave that up to the townships to put it on their web pages. All the communities that we service, of the 128 communities that we service, the official means to communicate, other than legal documents, obviously, to the communities is now through an electronic means. So they're not sending out letters and postcards because of obviously the many days of delay in order to getting those messages out. So they're putting it on the web pages. What I will tell residents of West Bloomfield is if at 6 o'clock when you come home from the office or your employment or wherever you are, and your cans are there along with everybody else in the neighborhood, they're still there, that's because we're behind. Leave them out because we have been running all the way up until our contractual cutoff, which is 8 p.m. Now, some of the townships will allow us to go as long as it's daylight hours so we can operate safely. We've gone beyond that because of the volume, okay? The first priority is trash, second priority is recycling, and then bulk, and bulk is right in there with the trash and so on, but that would be the third, the rear pack trucks, and the composting. We've also been blitzing on Saturdays for catch-up. So what I tell residents is, don't wheel it back up to the house because you're going to get frustrated unless you don't want it to go out until next week. Leave it there because what we do is if we do have to get cut off because the landfills shut down at a certain time, okay? So we can pack some of the stuff in our transfer stations, but not everything. So we do have to stop just because we're unable to continue at a certain point in the day, okay? What they want to do is they'll mark where they left off in West Bloomfield Township on whatever street, Glen Hollow or something like that, right? And in the morning, they start right back off where they were to finish, say, the Monday route on a Tuesday morning so they can carry on with the Tuesday. We don't like to push routes. Nobody likes that. But sometimes it's a necessity due to volume, vehicular failure, weather incidences, labor, so on and so forth. Those do happen from time to time. And as I say, during the heavy period, it's more likely than a normal period of time. And we pick up where we left off. So we like to do it that way. So leave them there and we'll get to them. Now, if you're the one-off, everybody on my street except for me got picked up except for me. That may be the case. It may not be the case. You can certainly call into the township and leave a message with them. It'll be communicated to the logistics driver coordinator, the LDC, that works here in Prairie, the liaison to the township, and they will figure out a way to pick up that. They'll look at the cameras to see whether or not it was a late put out. In other words, it wasn't our fault for missing it, but the resident happened to put it out late. We serviced the neighborhood, say at 10 in the morning. They didn't wheel it out until noon. Well, that's called it's not a missed stop. It's a late put out. There's a difference, right? So we try to limit those. We try to educate through a direct dialogue when we message back to them. The township does that as well. We have a good working relationship with the DPW in West Bloomfield. So we try to communicate directly to the residents when there are one-offs. But if it's a whole missed street, especially at the end of the day, leave it there. We're going to come back and get it the next day before we proceed on with the next day's route. That's been the standard procedure that we've had since we did the transition because it was the only way to try and be consistent and fair because we don't like to push routes from one week to the next. Nobody likes that. So if it's a day delay, we try to get to it to the next day.
Matt Allen is with us, the Director of Public Relations and Government Affairs with Priority Waste. You can get more updates, more information, and ways to communicate on prioritywaste.org. You can also find more information.
.com,
My
Tyler,
apologies.
.com.
Yes, it is .com. I looked right down and saw it on my notes. The moment I said that, it didn't register in my brain. PriorityWaste.com. You can follow them on Facebook at Priority Waste as well. Matt, we know that it was a big transition from GFL to Priority Waste, taking over so many communities across Southeast Michigan, West Bloomfield being one of those, and on the larger side of those communities with those growing pains, with new vehicles and switching out some of the old ones that were ready for their sunset and their retirement. Now to today, getting a little bit more consistency in there. When can people maybe expect there to be more general consistency across the board, across southeastern Michigan, and see this transition start to come to a close and more regular operations with Priority in their community here in West Bloomfield and throughout southeast Michigan?
So great summary question, Tyler. I appreciate that. So, here we are. We're coming up on the 1 year mark, right? July 1st, which was the transition, which was a holiday week last year in 2024. The good news, as I said earlier in our interview here, it's Christmas in July. Those new trucks that we ordered immediately, we thought, 14 to 18 months, which would be sort of November, December timeframe. We've been able to get 50 of the trucks that we ordered are going to be delivered by the second week of July. So the consistency, we're coming down to the end of the heavy period of the compost right now anyway, but the trucks being delivered, cameraed with our technology package, and then being put on the road has already started as of last week, 7. As I said, 7 more are going to get delivered today. Our guys are working overnight in our shops to get them fitted with our technology package to get them out on the road in service. So the first 90 days of a new truck in operation, believe it or not, is when we find all the kinks and quirks from the factory, the stuff that wasn't done maybe perfectly right from the factory. So we're tweaking the trucks along the way. But the best part is they're here, they're brand new. They're going to have the latest technology package on them, and they're going to be going out for allocations to retire the oldest trucks in the fleet. These first 50 are going to go a long way to bringing us to consistency because the older trucks are going down more and more and more. And when you're doing heavier, longer days, you have more frequency of failure, which only compounds the logistical problem, right? So the new trucks are going to help out tremendously. Now, we're not just done with those 50 trucks. We had ordered more where we were able to get front-loaded 50, so we'll have them here by the middle of July. So that's going to be tremendous help. Really, it is. And then there's more that are going to come later in the year. So we're not done with just 50. We're going to continue this. And then our plan is to be clean, neat, and organized the way that we do it. We've gone through this disjointed period, and we appreciate people's patience, even when it ran out. We appreciate people recognizing, as they did last week, Garbage Man Appreciation Week, or the day of the year. And we appreciate them every day when we pick up their cans, and we try to do a consistent job. So to your point, the relief is coming. Middle of July, these trucks are all going to be in service. The new trucks, the 50 trucks will be here, and they'll be allocated across communities across Southeast Michigan. It's going to help a lot. And then there's more trucks that are coming. Our goal was to get rid of all of that old stock, either have it auctioned off, parted out, or scrapped. And that process is started as of last week, which is going to be a tremendous relief to all these communities.
Yeah, it does take quite a lot of time to go and replace vehicles that are unreliable in a very vehicle-heavy industry like waste hauling and trash services such as
Yeah,
Priority
Tyler,
Waste
if I just could, just so that people understand, just like and every municipality understands this, and so does the township, God bless them. When you order a new aerial platform fire truck, that's over $1 million vehicle, right? It takes up to 3 years to get it delivered from the time you put a deposit down on those things. Garbage trucks, traditionally in the industry, the simplest garbage trucks, they cost anywhere from $260,000 to $320,000 depending on the equipment package. Okay, and they take 14 months at a minimum, and up to 18 months to get the simple ones done. And then the Corrados, which are the $400,000 to $500,000 vehicles, depending on configuration, okay, those can take up even longer. But we understand the strains on the manufacturers in America. We only buy American, of course, and we want specialized vehicles. Garbage trucks are just weird apparatus. They just are. They're big, they're bulky, they're clunky. They got all these different electronics and hydraulics and so on and so forth. And it takes time to get them made. It gets time to tune them in when we get them, because we use the latest technology out there with the robotics and the joysticks handling. So it makes it easier on the drivers so they can have more longevity in the field. We're not buying junk. We're buying the best stuff that's out there, and we're taking delivery of it. And we're putting into service as quickly as we can.
Yeah, you hopefully will love the results, but to get there, you got to get the growing pains along the way and have that patience in tow as well. Matt, thank you so much for your time and giving us an update on where things are at with priority waste in our community.
Tyler, you and your colleague Kevin can call anytime. We love West Bloomfield. We really appreciate the community there. And hopefully when you see that brand new shiny yellow truck coming down the road, ask them to toot the horn.